Thanks for joining us today. I'll be covering the AI ML announcements from reInvent, a bit of pre-reInvent, right? I think it flows really well into what John was talking about in terms of analytics, what we're doing with analytics. And if you think about it, analytics and machine learning go hand in hand. It always starts with the data. You have the right data, you manage it properly, you give it access to across your organization, and once the data is ready, it's in a good shape, you share it with across the organization, and you enable multiple teams to create these outcomes out of the data, which is where the machine learning and the AI ML comes out, the traditional ML or the Gen AI. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue off with where John left off with SageMaker. And then we'll jump into a little bit of generative AI with Bedrock, Q Developer, and Q Business, and what we have done there. Again, all others have also mentioned is there is a huge list of announcements at reInvent, especially in this area. So we have picked the ones that are whether we think are really interesting and kind of show you the direction of the overall area of machine learning where we are going with it. Bert's presentation obviously has the list of all the announcements. So if you'd like to take a look at any of them, please feel free to do so. And like Ron mentioned, please feel free to reach out. We'd be able to connect you with the right people to get more into information about these services and how you could use them. Right. So with that, let's jump into the SageMaker Unified Studio. So apart from what John mentioned already, it's obviously an integrated experience that takes all the way from data, gathering the data, cataloging the data, preparing the data, and then using the data to build models and then build generative AI application development. All of that comes under this single unified studio. The goal is to give you a simple entry point with a few different key parts of it that I'm going to cover in the next session. But the goal of the Unified Studio obviously is, if you think about, for example, the SQL editors you had to use in order to go to different data sources that you have, or the notebooks, the Jupyter notebooks that you were running to connect into multiple services, EMR, Redshift, SageMaker, or having the Bedrock Studio to work with Amazon Bedrock, right? Having those disparate tools really works because they have each of those tools have the depth. But now with SageMaker Unified Studio, we're bringing all of them together to give you that simplified interface where you can perform all the way from data to business intelligence in a single experience. So to power this Unified Studio, there is three different pieces of it that we have built behind the scenes, and that's what I'm going to cover next. Right. The first one is the AI and data governance. So this is powered again by SageMaker Lakehouse, right? So SageMaker Lakehouse, it's built on Glue data catalog that you might be familiar with already with Glue 5.0. Now we have a enhanced catalog that we are enabling it. But what does the Lakehouse provide you? One of the core points for Lakehouse is it provides you that Apache Iceberg compatible API. No matter where your data is sitting, no matter what format it is stored in, it gives you that Apache Iceberg API access. What does it mean? You have many open source tools that can work with this data type, including many of the AWS services as well, like EMR Glue. And giving you that access makes all of the data available to you the choice of tools makes it simpler. So you don't have to think about the data. What we have seen in the data lake times is, your choice of tools really depends on how the data is stored at the storage layer, and this takes away that, giving you that Iceberg Open API. And behind the scenes, what makes Lakehouse really great is the permissions model around it, right? If you start at the top, you have teams that are producing the data. They are obviously the domain experts. They maintain the quality. They maintain the data itself. And then on the other hand, within your organization, you have teams that actually want to use the data. With data SageMaker AI and data governance, we let you have these granular controls on who can access the data, what data, and where can they access it. So the SageMaker becomes a marketplace of data for your organization, and even across your organizations if you choose to do so. Right. And this is powered behind the scenes by Lake Formation. You might be familiar with it. But with this new version of data governance, it's now compatible uh, with the Lakehouse permissions model as well, so that all of the tools, whether you're using it from the Unified Studio or third-party tools, open source tools, the permissions model still apply, and you have control over that. And the second piece of SageMaker that makes it really powerful is the catalog. So this is again built on Glue Catalog, but it's an enhanced version of Glue Catalog now, part of SageMaker. So what does it do? So traditionally when you have data lakes, you have data lakes based on S3 and maybe data warehouses in Redshift, but you also had so many different data sources, whether it's relational databases, whether it's third-party data sources sitting somewhere else in BigQuery or outside of AWS, right? In that scenario, you had to compile all your data into a single place to build the catalog, and then have your analytics and data processing pipelines access the data. With SageMaker catalog, what we do is this catalog can catalog your data wherever it's sitting into Iceberg compatible catalog, so that you can query across the data sources without migrating the data, without making the multiple copies of data just to build a data lake, right? So that's the power of SageMaker catalog. Again, it's integrated into SageMaker Unified Studio, but the catalog is available through APIs that you can use to discover data. Another good feature of catalog is also obviously the Gen AI side of it. You can use natural language to search and find your approved data sets. And the data governance, the Lake Formation level permissions, granular permissions, whether it's a row level, column level, or a cell level permissions that you define on your data, all of that is integrated with SageMaker data catalog. And then the new zero ETL capabilities. Again, we have been working on the zero ETL capabilities for a couple of years now, and it's really powerful. It lets you connect your data sources wherever they are and create a data pipeline without much effort, right? So, but the zero ETL capabilities with additional service integrations that are new now. There has always been DynamoDB, and with SageMaker Lakehouse now, there is new SaaS applications that you can connect with your zero ETL as well, like Salesforce, SAP, Zendesk, or ServiceNow, giving you that access to enabling you to use the full potential of data without building your custom ETL pipelines. Again, all of this is powered by the unified data connectivity capabilities that allow data connections to be reused across the SageMaker Unified Studio, AWS Glue, Amazon Athena for data integrations, the data analytics on the QuickSight side. All of them are integrated into a unified connectivity layer there. All right, so that's about the Unified Studio and what makes it powerful and gives you that a single entry point for your all data, machine learning, and generative AI capabilities. Right. So moving on from that is the SageMaker Hyperpod. So a challenge our customers usually face is, when you have these LLMs that you're fine tuning, or even training, right? The challenge is how efficiently do you manage the compute resources you have across your multiple teams and projects. So obviously the number of compute resources are finite and expensive, so you want to maximize the utilization, and it can be difficult to do that. How do you efficiently allocate resources? Sometimes we have seen people use spreadsheets and calendars to make sure that different time zones of teams get access to these compute clusters to train their own models. Imagine having 1,000 accelerators like Trainium2, and during the day you might be using them heavily for inference, but at night a large portion of them might be sitting idle, right? So with this Hyperpod's new feature, task governance, what it helps you do is to dynamically allocate these compute resources across the tasks. You'd be able to set up, priority of these tasks and the list of the tasks, and task governance would automatically assign these clusters across different teams and projects. Right. And then with, all right, let me quickly. All right. So with SageMaker training plans, that the second feature in Hyperpod is that it allows you to define your compute requirements and the target timeframes so that you can be flexible on when you train with your models. And then SageMaker will take care of the rest. Basically, leveraging Hyperpod's capabilities, SageMaker will create and manage the capacity plan, when to use what, and then set up the clusters, create the training jobs, and also handle the instance interruptions if something goes wrong. And then when it continues back up, it'll be able to start from where it stopped. And all of this gives you that optimization of savings and time without any manual intervention. Because as you might have seen, the Gen AI training is quite involved and it requires a lot of effort to set up. And SageMaker's goal is to take away as much of effort as possible and seamlessly give you that training experience. And then from a foundation model customization perspective, executing those fine-tuning and pre-training tasks is complex. It's quite involved. You need deep data scientists, deep learning expertise to actually do that. And then during the process, you could easily reach thousands of different configurations of the training stack, and then performance vary between those configurations. So you're basically going multiple times across different configurations to find what gives you the best results. To simplify that, SageMaker Hyperpod now announced that we have recipes to give you that curated, ready-to-use recipes for pre-training and fine-tuning foundational models. So these are foundation models like Llama, Minstrel, Mixtral, right? These are the common open source models that you would be able to fine-tune on Bedrock. And SageMaker gives you those recipes, and even on SageMaker Jumpstart gives you those quick start recipes so that you could fine-tune them with your own inputs into what you're expecting out of those training models as well. And then these are not just the recipes that we provide. You could also modify and add more recipes to it so that you could have fully managed end-to-end training loop for Gen AI models. And then the last feature for SageMaker is the inference side. Last year, SageMaker announced inference components. It's a new deployment model in SageMaker specifically designed for LLMs, right, and other large model inferences. This year, we've built on top of that foundation to further simplify the deployment, improve the scaling of inference, and give you new ways of optimization for cost and latency. Right? And one of the first capability that we have announced this year is multi-adapter model inference. Right? What does it do? It gives you that common inference components across different base models. Right? So it makes it easy to deploy multiple variants of the model architecture under a single endpoint. And then SageMaker Inference will dynamically load the appropriate adapter in milliseconds based on the request. So for example, you could efficiently host many specialized LoRa model adapters that are again obviously built from the common base model that gives you high throughput and cost savings because you're combining multiple models into a single endpoint and loading them at runtime. You're not running multiple endpoints that are not being used all the time. And then container caching is a way to speed up the scaling part of the inference. So what this container caching allows is to be pre-cache your models on the GPU instances to eliminate the need to download the container when actually scaling up. A new instance behind the scene comes up, your entire model needs to be loaded into it, and as a result, it takes quite a bit of time to scale and your new request to be processed. So with container caching, you'll be able to observe a up to 56% reduction in latency for new model copies and gives you that faster scaling capabilities. Again, this is supported across a variety of SageMaker deep learning containers, containers that we provide with built-in frameworks and libraries that makes it easy to build these deep learning models, including large language models. And then the third feature here is the fast model loading. So what it does is it performs an ahead of time compilation of the model to pre-create sharded models that can be loaded in parallel onto the infrastructure behind the scenes during scaling. So effectively, it reduces the time to load the model into memory. And then by offloading this compilation and the sharding process, you can models are loaded quickly, reducing that scale out time. You have let's say you have an endpoint, you're seeing quite a huge number of requests coming in, inference requests coming in, and then SageMaker automatically scales your infrastructure behind the scenes. And with fast model loading, your models also load faster, so that your computation resources are available for inference faster and can be able to handle more inferences at runtime. And then the last feature that SageMaker Inference has is scaling down to zero. As you might be seeing, like for example, in Aurora Serverless and in many other services that AWS puts out, is efficient use of resources and obviously scaling down the resources when not in use. So with this scale to zero feature, SageMaker Inference endpoints can now be configured to scale down to zero instances during the period of inactivity. So it reduces the cost for you. Again, when you have variable traffic patterns like chatbots, your end customers might not be using them all the time, or content moderation systems and other Gen AI use cases where the endpoints are used infrequently or in a specific time periods during the day, right? And then when they scale down to zero, they can also quickly scale back up when the traffic resumes. Again, these are built on top of the SageMaker Inference components and other features to minimize that scale up time, like container caching and fast model loading. Right. So please feel free to put out any questions that you have. Again, these are only a part of these announcements from SageMaker. The whole list is available in Bert's presentation. We've picked a few that are game changing and are interesting for our audience here today. All right. So after SageMaker, let's jump into the generative AI side, right? With Bedrock being obviously the first service that we have added many capabilities of. Capabilities to at reInvent. So if you're not familiar with it, Amazon Bedrock is a fully managed service to build and scale your generative AI applications with foundation models. The core tenets of it is to give you a choice of foundation models, because we believe that not a single model can solve every problem with generative AI. There would be multiple models. Some of the models will be really good at some domains. There will be domain-specific models. There will be, task-specific models. There will be different sizes of models that perform at different accuracies. So the model choice is really important when you're trying to build a generative AI application, but also not break the bank, right? So with that, Bedrock, the first set of features with Bedrock are related to the performance features, right? We have multiple new performance features, starting with the latency optimized inference. It's a premium performance configuration, again, optimized for a specific set of models today, more models coming in the future. What it does is it delivers faster response time and improved responsiveness for models that take advantage of AWS purpose-built AI chips like Trainium 2. It results in reduced latency for you without compromising the accuracy. So this feature is in preview. As of today, it supports Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Haiku and Meta's Llama 3.1 405B and 70 billion models. So with this, so it's not a built-in feature, or it's not a standard feature into your inference. You need to change your API calls to ask for the latest latency optimized inference, and there is account level limits on how much you can use latency optimized inference, and Bedrock automatically turns you up into the standard inference if you reach those limits. So that's all built in. And then the next feature that Bedrock has, all right, is the prompt caching, right? So prompt management obviously is important, and then obviously your cost really depends on how many tokens you're sending into the model and how many tokens you're receiving from the model. With prompt caching, you would be able to cache frequently used context in the prompts. For example, you might be asking 10 different questions on a single document. With prompt caching, the document, once it's understood and converted into tokens, it's cached so that process is speed up, and you're not also paying for it. And with intelligent prompt routing, it's a quite interesting feature where you'd be able to send prompts to different foundation models within the same model family to optimize for quality of response and cost. Obviously, different, Claude Sonnet might perform better in some cases. Haiku might perform better in some cases. So with intelligent prompt routing, you'd be able to automatically route your requests to different models that are available in Bedrock. And then quickly on the model availability, like I mentioned, model choice is one of the core features of Bedrock. So obviously, we've had so many open source and third-party models like AI21 Labs, Anthropic, open models from Meta. This year, we have announced Amazon Nova models. There is quite a few of them. There are multi-model models where you can work with text, images, and video that are readily available in Nova. We have more models from Luma and Poolside AI coming in. Poolside, for example, is good at software engineering AI models. Luma is for high quality video generation from text and images. Obviously, more model choices are coming onto Bedrock. And then if you're interested in model fine-tuning or continued pre-training, model distillation is a great feature that Bedrock put in. It's in preview. What it helps you do is to use a bigger model to train a smaller model to perform good at a specific type of inferences. You provide the prompts, and then Bedrock uses the larger model to generate the responses and uses those responses to train the smaller model to be good at that specific topic. And it's basically uses that teacher model quality with lower cost of running a student model. And then going into knowledge bases, there's quite a few of announcements at knowledge bases. Knowledge bases lets you store your data and use drag approach for real-time context for your generation. With this knowledge basis, we are trying to optimize your RAG workflows and give you that multiple options to speed up the RAG workflow as well. So with custom connectors, now you'd be able to connect into SaaS applications as well. Auto-generated query filters. You put in a prompt. Bedrock automatically understands your metadata of your RAG data and automatically creates those query filters to give you the most relevant data for your query. And then streaming responses, again, this is applicable for both generate as well as retrieve and generate APIs. So with retrieve and generative APIs, for example, with knowledge bases, your output tokens are streamed directly to your client application, so that the latency, you can have that low latency access to the first few tokens that are being generated. All right, quickly on response evaluation. One of the bigger challenges when we first started on Bedrock or generative AI in general is the hallucinations part of it. Customers were really concerned about it. There have been many open source evaluation metrics, evaluation capabilities that you have seen with Bedrock response evaluation. With a couple of new features now, we can use LLM as a judge to verify the quality and understand or get the metrics from your models. So what it does is it uses the LLM as a judge to generate these standard metrics about the quality, about the responsible AI metrics, like are there any hallucinations? How close is it to the topic that we are discussing? And all of those metrics are compiled using an LLM as well. And RAG evaluation is another variation of it where the same process happens at the RAG level as well. Right, checking on the time here, I think we're pretty close. So I want to quickly cover Q Developer a little bit. The Q Developer is another GenAI service that gives you that helps developers from end-to-end workflow tools for all the way from code generation to code transformations, and now with automatic code reviews and generating documentation that are announced at reInvent. So with transformations, Q Developer can help you automatically transform your existing code bases into newer versions. Java is already available today. You can do that today with directly from the CLI. And in preview announced at reInvent are .NET, your VMware applications, mainframe COBOL applications, as well as embedded SQL in your applications, converting from Oracle to PostgreSQL compatible SQL statements. Right. Other top things that I do want to cover here are the automated code reviews and generate documentation. Again, this is all embedded into Q Developer in your Visual Studio or any other IDEs that are supported by Q Developer. Please feel free to try them out. These are all generally available today, including automated test generation, simplifies the development process end to end, all the way from code generation to deploying that code, verifying that it works properly, and deploying that code into production. There's a few more. I think
you probably, if you finish up.
Yeah. Right. So that's pretty much what I had on Q Developer. There is Q Business that is now integrated with enterprise applications. So Q Business always has giving you that interactive experience on top of your data. And with this announcement, we are now tying into app action. So you'd be able to tie into 11 popular enterprise systems and perform actions in those systems as well. GenAI, like Ron mentioned, GenAI is being used in many different areas, and getting into that, using GenAI not just for text generation like a chatbot, but actually using it to perform actions and build the entire workflow. With that, I will hand it over to Ron. Thank you for the opportunity, and hope we have provided some great information today. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and looking forward to another year of great reInvent. Thank you.